Some stories begin softly, but mine began with fear pressing on my chest like a heavy stone. Even now, when I think back, my hands feel cold and my heart beats faster, as if the past is still chasing me. What I thought would be a simple search for truth slowly became a path filled with pain, loss, and a kind of arrest I never expected. What happened to me did not happen in one loud moment. It started quietly, with thoughts, books, and questions. But before I knew it, those thoughts pulled me into a storm that changed my life forever. If you're reading this, please take a moment to comment where you are watching or reading from. It helps us connect as one family, even from far places, and it reminds us to keep praying for one another as we share these stories together. My name is Yusuf Al-Amin, and this part of my story began in the year 2011, when I was 29 years old. At that time, my life was simple on the outside, but heavy on the inside. I was known as a Muslim scholar in my community. People respected me. Young boys greeted me with bowed heads. Older men listened when I spoke. I studied hard, memorized texts, and spent long nights reading under dim lights. Inside me, however, lived a strong fire. That fire was my desire to defend my faith at all costs. I believed deeply that I was standing on truth, and I felt it was my duty to challenge anything that stood against it. Among all the books I studied, the Bible troubled me the most. I did not read it to understand it. I read it to break it apart. Many nights, I sat alone with stacks of books around me. Dust filled the air. My eyes burned from lack of sleep. I underlined sentences and wrote notes in the margins. I felt proud each time I thought I found a weakness. In my heart, I believed I was preparing for victory. But even before anything changed, the pressure had already started. Some people close to me noticed how intense I had become. They warned me to be careful. They showed concern with their eyes and their silence. Others were harsher. They reminded me that questioning too deeply could bring trouble. I brushed those concerns aside and told myself that truth had nothing to fear. Slowly, my name began to move ahead of me. Whispers followed wherever I went. Some people admired my boldness. Others watched me with suspicion. I could feel it in the way conversations stopped when I entered a room. I could see it in how greetings became shorter and smiles disappeared. The persecution did not begin with violence. It began with distance. Friends stopped visiting. Invitations ended. My family grew uneasy. At home, meals became quiet. The air felt tight. I noticed how my mother's hands shook slightly when she served food. My father avoided my eyes. They did not say much, but their fear spoke clearly. Soon, words replaced silence. Religious leaders questioned my actions. They examined my studies closely. They warned me that engaging too much with Christian texts was dangerous. Some accused me of being influenced. Others suggested I was becoming arrogant. Their looks were sharp and their tone carried threat, even when they pretended it did not. I began to feel watched. When I walked through the market, people stared longer than before. Children whispered. I heard my name spoken behind me. At night, I slept lightly, waking at every sound. Fear settled into my bones, but pride kept me moving forward. I told myself I was strong. I told myself persecution was proof that I was right. Yet my heart was not at peace. One evening, after a long day of study, I felt an unusual heaviness. The room felt different. The air seemed thick. I tried to focus on my books, but my thoughts would not stay still. I felt as though something unseen was standing very close to me, closer than fear. That night marked the beginning of something I did not understand. From that point on, my persecution deepened. Religious peers openly challenged me. Some called me a traitor behind my back. Others mocked me in public gatherings. My reputation, once solid, began to crack. I lost students. I lost support. I lost rest. Worst of all, I lost safety. Threats came quietly at first. Warnings passed through messengers. I was advised to stop, to return fully, to abandon my questions. Each warning carried weight. Each one reminded me that my life could change in an instant. Still, I continued. I did not know then that my search to arrest truth was about to turn into truth, arresting me. I did not know that the name I studied to oppose was already moving toward me. And I did not know that the suffering I felt was only the beginning of a much deeper pain and a much greater change. That was how my journey started. Not with peace, not with light, but with fear, pressure, and the slow, painful tightening of chains I could not yet see. Fear has a sound. It sounds like silence that is too loud, like footsteps that stop when I stop breathing. That night, I felt that sound wrap around me, and I knew something was about to change, even though I did not know how or why. I thought I was in control. I was wrong. The pressure on my life became heavier after my questions grew deeper. I was no longer only watched. I was now followed. When I walked through narrow streets, I sensed eyes behind windows. When I entered study halls, I felt tension before anyone spoke. My name no longer brought respect alone. It now brought warning. One evening, after a long day of insults and rejection, I returned to my room tired and shaken. That day, religious leaders had shown me signs of anger without touching me. They had made it clear that my path was becoming dangerous. They had revealed through their actions that I was stepping outside a safe line. At home, I felt alone. My family kept their distance, not because they hated me, but because fear had taught them to be careful. I ate quietly. I slept lightly. My heart stayed awake even when my body rested. That night, the persecution inside me felt worse than the persecution around me. As I sat alone, surrounded by books, my thoughts raced. I remembered how friends had turned away. I remembered how students no longer came. I remembered how laughter had left my life. I felt stripped of comfort, honor, and peace. Then something unexpected happened. The room did not change in shape, but it changed in feeling. The air became heavy, yet calm. My fear did not grow louder. Instead, it became still. I felt as if I was being stopped without force. Not by hands, not by chains, but by a presence that held my thoughts in place. I tried to move, but my heart would not let me rush. I felt seen in a way I had never known. Not judged like my critics judged me. Not threatened like my enemies threatened me. I felt known. In that moment, I understood what it meant to be arrested without violence. Jesus did not come to attack me. He came to stop me. He revealed things about my heart that I had hidden even from myself. He showed me how my pride had dressed itself as knowledge. He made me see how my anger had pretended to be faith. I felt exposed but not destroyed. Yet even in that stillness, fear followed. I knew that if my struggle became known, my suffering would grow. I understood that my world would not forgive this encounter. My mind raced ahead to what awaited me. Rejection, shame, loss, danger. The persecution I already knew would become deeper and crueler. In the days that followed, my life began to fall apart faster. My actions changed before my words did, and people noticed. Religious elders questioned me harder. They examined my silence. They watched my eyes. They accused me through their behavior of betrayal. I was pushed aside during gatherings. I was ignored when I spoke. I was treated as unclean without anyone saying it openly. My name became heavy to say. Threats became clearer. Warnings became sharper. Some showed me through gestures and actions that harm was not far away. I was no longer safe in places that once felt like home. My body carried stress every day. My stomach hurt from hunger and fear. Sleep avoided me. My hands shook when I tried to read. I cried alone, quietly, so no one would hear. I felt trapped between two worlds. One world hated me for questioning. The other world terrified me because following truth would cost me everything. That was the night my argument ended. Not because I won, not because I lost, but because I was stopped by truth itself. And from that night on, my persecution was no longer only from people around me. It was also from the battle inside me, as my old life slowly died and my new life waited in pain and fear to be born. There is a kind of pain that does not shout but slowly breaks you from the inside. That was the pain I entered next. I did not run anymore. I did not argue anymore. I was standing still, but everything around me was attacking me at once. Truth was holding me still, and persecution was closing in. After that night, my life became very small and very heavy. Each morning felt like walking into danger with open eyes. I woke up knowing that every step I took would be watched, judged, and reported. The safety I once enjoyed was gone. People no longer hid their rejection. When I walked into familiar places, chairs shifted away from me. Faces turned cold. Some people refused to greet me. Others stared at me with anger, as if my presence alone offended them. I felt pushed out without being told to leave. Religious leaders increased the pressure. They examined my movements. They followed my silence. They treated me as someone already guilty. Through their actions, they showed me that I was now seen as a threat. My family suffered because of me. Neighbors avoided our home. Relatives stopped visiting. My parents carried shame they did not deserve. I saw fear in their eyes every time footsteps stopped near our door. My younger siblings stayed quiet, confused by the tension filling the house. At night, I heard whispers outside. During the day, I felt watched in the streets. I learned to walk fast, to avoid eye contact, to stay invisible. Hunger visited me often, because fear stole my appetite. My body became weak, but my mind remained restless. I lost everything that once defined me. My title meant nothing. My education became a reason for punishment. My voice, once respected, became dangerous. I was no longer invited to teach or speak. I was erased slowly, like chalk washed away by rain. Yet in the middle of this suffering, something strange happened. The same presence that had stopped me earlier stayed close, not loudly, not forcefully, quietly. It held my heart together when everything else was falling apart. Jesus continued to reveal truth to me, not through long speeches, but through understanding that settled deep inside me. He showed me that suffering was not a mistake. He helped me see that many before me had walked this painful road. He revealed that choosing truth often comes with rejection, loss, and fear. I began to understand that persecution was not proof of failure, but proof of change. Still, the pain did not lessen. One afternoon, I was publicly humiliated. People gathered and treated me like an enemy. Their faces carried anger and disappointment. Their actions showed me that I was no longer welcome among them. I walked away with my head down, my heart shattered. That day, I cried like a child. I cried for my family. I cried for my lost life. I cried because I was scared. I cried because following truth had cost me everything I loved. I felt small, weak, and alone. But even in tears, I was not abandoned. I felt strength grow quietly inside me. Not the strength to fight back, but the strength to endure. Jesus held me still in patience. He showed me that pain does not last forever, even when it feels endless. By the end of that season, I was no longer the man I used to be. Fear had stripped me. Persecution had humbled me. Truth had reshaped me. I was broken, but I was becoming new. And though the suffering was not over yet, I knew one thing clearly. I could never return to who I was before. The cost was too high, and the truth had already taken hold of my heart. Some endings feel louder than beginnings. Mine felt like standing in the rain with no shelter, knowing I could not go back, and not knowing where I would sleep next. This was the moment when everything was taken from me, and yet everything important was finally given to me. This was the moment my life changed forever. By the time this chapter began, persecution was no longer a threat. It was my daily life. I woke up each morning not knowing where safety would come from. I no longer had a place where I truly belonged. My community had rejected me fully. My name was spoken with anger. My past work was used against me. I was treated as someone who had betrayed everything sacred. I lost my home. People made it clear through their actions that I was no longer welcome. Doors closed when I approached. Friends crossed the street to avoid me. Some people showed hatred openly. Others showed fear, which hurt just as much. I remember walking long distances alone. The sun burned my skin during the day. Cold entered my bones at night. Hunger became normal. My clothes grew thin and worn. My body weakened, but my heart stayed awake. I was insulted publicly. Some people knocked me to my face. Others used stones of words instead of hands. They treated me as if I was dirty. They tried to shame me back into silence. They wanted me to deny what had changed inside me. At times I was afraid for my life. I learned to sleep lightly. I learned to hide. I learned to move quietly. Fear followed me like a shadow. Still, I could not turn back. Something stronger than fear was holding me. Jesus did not remove my suffering, but he gave it meaning. He revealed to me that my pain was seen. He showed me that I was not abandoned. He helped me understand that following truth sometimes means walking through fire. Each time I felt weak, strength came quietly. Each time I felt alone, peace rested inside me. I began to live differently. I stopped trying to prove anything. I stopped fighting with words. My life itself became my message. Even in hunger, I chose love. Even in rejection, I chose forgiveness. Even in danger, I chose truth. Some people noticed, not everyone hated me. A few watched quietly, a few asked questions with their eyes. My scars spoke louder than my voice ever could. I understood then that my suffering was not wasted. I had moved from proof to purpose. Today, when I look back, I do not celebrate the pain, but I honor the change it brought. Persecution broke me, but it also rebuilt me. I lost everything that once defined me, but I gained a life anchored in truth. If you are reading this and suffering for your faith, please know this: you are not forgotten. Your tears matter. Your pain is seen. Your endurance has meaning. I encourage Christians all over the world to pray for those who are persecuted because they chose to follow Christ. Pray for strength for the weak, courage for the afraid, and comfort for the broken. Pray for families who suffer in silence and believers who sleep in fear. And if you are reading this and you feel a call to turn away from sin and turn toward Jesus, I gently invite you to pray with a sincere heart. You can speak to God by telling Him that you believe Jesus is the Son of God, that you are sorry for your sins, and that you are asking Him to forgive you, change your heart, and lead your life from this day forward. Trust that He hears you, loves you, and welcomes you. This is where my story ends, and this is where hope begins.